A Dissenter's Christmas. First of all, I would like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Look at what is depicted here. A typical Christmas scene with lots of easily recognizable images. There's a mug of hot chocolate. It must be winter time. Just in case you missed that, there is a snowflake painted on the mug. And it's topped with cream, a touch of luxury. This is a winter treat. There are also boughs of evergreen trees, some sticks of cinnamon and an apple, and some decorations of the sort that you might hang on a Christmas tree. In the corner is a bauble with the words Merry Xmas. This is one of the few times in modern English that we use the word merry. It has come to be part of the Christmas vocabulary, inextricably linked with a twinkling-eyed Santa, a red-nosed reindeer, and above all, booze, which makes you merry. There is nothing on there except the word Christ, hidden in the X in Christmas, to suggest any link with the birth of Jesus or the Christian message. All the references are to older festivities connected to the midwinter solstice, pagan nature rituals, and Roman Saturnalia, traditionally times of drunken revels and the overturning of normal morality at the turn of the year. In Tudor times, in the merry England of the 16th century, a lord of misrule, or in Scotland, abbot of unreason, was appointed to oversee the festivities. That custom was banned by Henry VIII, reinstated under Catholic Mary, and banned again by the Protestant Queen Elizabeth I. Famously, Oliver Cromwell and the 17th century Puritans were so appalled by all this that they banned Christmas altogether until good King Charles's golden days were restored and everything was back to normal. Even then, people resented the loss of the Christmas festivities, as shown in this cartoon, in which Old Christmas in the middle is shunned by the Puritan on the left of the image, but welcomed by the figure on the right. Carol singing retreated into the taverns, where it was subject to inspection and punishment, and there are still traditions of pub carol singing that go back to this era. Shakespeare lampoons the Puritan Malvolio in Twelfth Night in the person of Sir Toby Belch, who asks him, "Dost thou think that because thou art virtuous, there shall be no more cakes and ale?" And of course, the theatres did not escape and were also closed for the duration. In the American settlement of Plymouth, established in 1620 by the Pilgrims on the ship the Mayflower, mostly Puritans or Independents, a number of the passengers were in fact not Puritan sympathisers, and so they wanted to celebrate Christmas in the old ways. They refused to work in the fields on Christmas Day, which they argued was a holy day. Mind you, their argument would have been stronger had they not then observed the day by playing openly in the street, some pitching the bar and some at stall ball and such like sports, as recorded by William Bradford, a leader of the Pilgrims, in his account of Plymouth Plantation. But in fact, there was far more behind the Puritan ruling than most people recognise. It is all too easy to mock the ban on festivities, but it was part of a radical rethinking of the way the Christian faith was lived out in people's lives. By the 17th century, the Church had developed a schedule of feasts and fasts, holy days and saints' days. The focus was largely on Christ as the heavenly King, rather than on his earthly life. And there was a major emphasis on his miraculous birth at Christmas in the middle of winter. There was less to say throughout the year about the teachings of Jesus, which, it has to be said, frequently challenged power and wealth of the kind now vested in the established church. The Puritan movement was very much a movement of ordinary people, and the church they espoused was rooted in the lives of tradesmen and craftsmen and women, not the rich aristocrats who held power in the established church. What inspired them was not so much the heavenly splendour of Christ, as a faith that looked to Jesus, the carpenter, with his practical teaching about godly living. John Bunyan started out life as a tinker, an itinerant mender of pots and pans. He got his education in the local school and as a soldier for a brief spell in Cromwell's army. and he wrote his most famous book while a prisoner in the town jail. The Puritans noticed that if you turned from the teachings of the church to the Bible, there was almost nothing about the birth of Jesus in the Gospels. No mention of feasts such as Christmas and Easter. For the Puritans, rather than an annual round of feasts and fasts, the focus was on the weekly celebration of the only special day mentioned in the New Testament, the Lord's Day, the first day of the week, which was Sunday, the day of resurrection, about which there is plenty in the Bible. Bunyan wrote a treatise on the Lord's Day, and far from being harsh, his words ring out with enthusiasm for this weekly celebration and its wonderful meaning. He wrote, "On the first day of the week, even on the day on which Jesus rose from the dead, he visited his people over and over and over, and preached such sermons of his resurrection, and gave unto them such demonstration of the truth of it all, as was never given them from the foundation of the world. He opened their understandings and scattered their unbelief on this day, as he never had done before. So they assembled together to wait upon the Lord on the first day of the week, with their Lord as leader." And all this took place in the homes and congregations of the devout. There was no need for a bishop or priest, no elaborate ritual or high ceremony. Each family and each gathering of God's people could mark the Lord's Day in their own setting. Puritan families would pray and study daily in the home. And once a week on the Lord's Day, they would mark a day of rest, when congregations would gather to learn more about their faith and gain strength and courage for the following week. In our own time, there are plenty of people who are uneasy about the conspicuous expenditure and extravagance of Christmas. We wouldn't want now to do away with the feast altogether, and even Bunyan Meeting still celebrates the birth of Christ through December. But many people long for something more meaningful. And many Christians are seeking, today more than ever, to turn back to a practical daily faith, marked at the beginning of each week as we gather to learn and pray.